Now we've used a dictionary to store data, a for loop to iterate through it, and the if-else logic to process it. So that's a complete data processing pipeline. But as our programs get bigger, we face a new problem. A file with 100 lines of code all mixed together can get messy and hard to read. So what if we wanted to perform the same task, like calculating an area or creating a user in multiple places? So we'd have to copy and paste our code, which breaks our number one rule, which is don't repeat yourself. So now today we'll solve that problem. So we're going to learn how to create our own custom tools, our own reusable blocks of code. So we're going to learn about function. Now before we do that, let's go ahead and prepare our area. So I'm gonna go ahead and clear, and then I'm gonna go back to the root, and then I'm gonna make a new directory called functions, and then let's actually go to the directly. Let's go to the directory functions. All right, now what is a function? You've been already using functions the whole time, like print, input, round, and int, right? So these are built-in functions. So think of a function like a coffee machine. You give it inputs, coffee grounds, water, and then you call it, you press the on button, it performs a series of steps, and it gives you an output, a fresh cup of coffee. A function is a name block of code that performs a specific task. So defining a function is like building the coffee machine, calling a function is like using it. Now when it comes to defining and calling a function, the syntax is very simple. We use the def or def keyword to define a function. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new file that you can use, and we call this a functions practice, and I think it's good to actually close all and go and open the file. To define a function, we use def, and then let's say the name of a function would be show welcome message, print hello. Here we are building the function but not using it yet. Now to use it, we're gonna call it. So this is a function call. So we're gonna say print, let's say program a statement, and then we call our function, which is show welcome message. But because it's a function, we have to put the parentheses at the end. These functions Now, when Python gets the show welcome message, it jumps to the def block, runs all the code inside of it, and then returns to where it left off. So we can call it as many times as we want within without rewriting that code. Now, there are functions with inputs, or what we call parameters. Our current function is a bit basic. So what if we wanted to create a specific person by name? We need to give it our function an input. So when we define the function, the input variable is called a parameter. So when we call the function, the actual value we provide is called an argument. Now a parameter is just the label on the input chute of the machine. For example, the name. The argument is the actual ingredient that you put in the chute. Like let's say we put Naledi. Now let's define another function. So we're going to define function called greet user, and then in here we have a username as a parameter, and then here we're just gonna print hello user name, and then maybe we can just print we are glad you are here. Now we can go ahead and call the function, but now we're gonna type LED, and then we're gonna tap create user, which is a time. So you see that we're actually calling this function. Our function is flexible. It performs the same general tasks, but can customize it based on the input that we give it. Okay, so if we run it again, then we say hello Naledi, we're glad you're here. Hello Tani, we're glad you're here. Now functions, there are functions with outputs, the return statement. Sometimes we don't just want a function to do something like print. We want it to calculate a value and give it back to us so that we can store it in a variable. So this is where the return keyword comes in. Now the return statement does two things. It immediately stops the function and it sends the value back to the place where the function was called. Alright, so let's go ahead and build an example. So we can define square and then we can have results is number by number, and then here we're just gonna return the result. So this actually sends the value of the results back. Then now when we call a function and then so we can just say squared value is square, and then here we're just gonna print let's say 5 squared is, and then we're gonna pass the squared value. So we call the function and cache the return value. So we can also use it directly to other areas again. So for example, we could actually do that. Sorry, I needed to paste something from my notes, so we can also do that. So if we run this, then we can see 5 squared is 25, and then the area of 10 by 10 is 100. The return statement is what makes functions true tools. So we can now build a tool that calculates something and then use that result in the rest of our code. So we just learned the single most important concept for writing clean, organized, and professional code. From now, think about how you can package your logic into functions.